Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
I'm also not very keen to give this talk. So I have no idea what the Indian policy is on CCUS. It is very frustrating. I have been reading till I'm cross-eyed, and I've tried to get some things out. I've tried to understand some things, and I will share that with you. But I'm hoping that you can give me more information, because there is really not much tangible benefits that are being offered. So it is on policy, it is on SDG, have not a clear idea on what is going on. This is what I got from Niti Aayog. This is this year's report. So this is latest, right? They have a pivotal study, there is a task force, and there are recommendations. You can't take these to the bank. So if you remember, yesterday we were talking about threats and impediments and what promotes the work, what doesn't promote the work. Right now, it doesn't seem as if there is much effort. Not much effort. There is a lot of effort. There is a lot of effort, it seems like, but that effort appears to be on meetings, on talks, on reports, on status, on recommendations. There is no implementation. If I look at things, if I'm a researcher, if I'm a technical person, if I'm looking to prepare something, let's say I want to set up a storage facility here. I'm a private person, and I think I have the knowledge, I think I have the capital, I want to start investing. I'm looking for government support. I'm looking to see what incentives there are. I cannot find those easily. And that becomes a big, big impediment to doing anything. If I'm at the university, I want to set up a lab, I want to do something, it is not a research environment that promotes targeted research. So it's not clear. I will be competing with 50 other projects on every other topic. And yes, there will be funding, but it is not a focused funding to say, we will put in this much amount of money for this type of research, and only projects that deal with capture will be funded. Only projects that we deal with utilization will be funded, and so on. So it becomes a very difficult thing to navigate as a private person or as a company. The one thing where I did find a tangible benefit was in coal gasification. Because coal is used so much in India, there is a very, very clear statement from Niti Aayog saying there are 3 coal gasification projects, and from CIL, one from NLCIL, and they are in the tendering process, which means they are going to be at some stage of development. That is tangible. That is there. That's happening. There is also approvals for coal lignite gasification, and that's with an outlay of 8,500 crore rupees. So that is a substantial amount of blunt that's being offered to incentivize coal gasification, to bring something to change. If you look at the Indian carbon trading market, again, the words that are fuzzy, that are really not hard, information, offerings, data, quantification, they're not there. There is a statement to develop the carbon market. There are suggestions to have the carbon market incorporated in the carbon trading scheme. and there is support under a certain body. What that tells me is, I really don't know. If I'm looking for this support, I know that there is support, but I have to dig in deeper and figure out for myself what support exists, where does it exist, who's the governing body, what is the process, how do I avail of this thing. So the part which becomes challenging is to move away from knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone who tells you, hey, there is a scheme, you should apply under that. If we're looking at a sustainable goal of development, then that knowledge should be available easily to anyone who's looking for it. That doesn't seem to be the case. I do not know from your perspective, if you're doing something, what government incentives do you get? KBR, what do you get from the government as incentive? Do you get anything as incentive? Nothing. Do you know if you would get it if you were to want it? You're not doing Indian projects, and that's because there is no incentive or because there is no market? No market. And why is there no market? We've just talked about the goals that India has, right? Why is there no market? Is it from management? Is it less profit? Or is it too complex? Or
I don't know exactly. The operating companies who has to come forward and execute the project. So
right.
We at KBR only do the engineering for the plan section.
Right. So you offer the engineering capabilities that KBR has, and there is no taker in India, right?
Yes.
Which is worrying, right? If we are to meet the decarbonization goals, and I have those listed somewhere, if there are no projects being developed in India, then it is a challenge on how we will meet the goals that India has very proudly put together. This has been stated. This has been stated at the IPCC meetings. This has been stated at COP29 this year. This has been part of the application that India has put in to be full member of IEA, not associated member as it is right now. Right? So there are quite a few, and it could be my ignorance, right? It could be that I really don't know. I'm coming from outside. It is too much of a problem. But we have already talked about the carbon market being an international development. So let me ask research side. Okay, that's the industry side, right? Maybe one side. Any other industrial representation here? I think Cargill is here, right? The reason I point that out is because it's a lost talent. All of you who are studying utilization, capture, all of that work, once you go into a new field, that knowledge is gone, right? So all of the efforts that were made by IIT Madras to train you to be the best capture technologist, to be the best engineer in membranes, in MOFs, in whatever you want to be. Now you start working for a petrochemical and you're doing something very different. You're doing separations and you're separating heavy oil from light oil and you're selling that and so on. All of your knowledge for utilization and capture is gone. It's being put elsewhere. There is a very big challenge all over the world in that we don't teach CCUS. There is no field of study that says you have a degree and your degree is in CCUS. You get a degree in earth sciences and chemical engineering, in chemistry, in physics, and so on. And you apply the knowledge that you gain during your master's, during your PhD, to the job that you hopefully get in the field that you specialized in. So most people train on the job. Most people learn what they need to do, learn how they need to develop and renew technology on the job. the basics of CCS, of utilization, of capture are mostly missing, which means you can improve process that you are working on day to day, but you cannot innovate because all of that innovation technology is not there. For people who are going out from here, from this university, on capture technologies, understand every little bit of how to do the work, how to make the MOFs, how to synthesize them, how to functionalize them, do everything in that, what characterization you need and all of that. And if they're not employed in what they're trained to do, that knowledge is gone, right? So we have a workforce challenge without a concerted effort, without a directed effort to create employment opportunities for fresh graduates in the field in which they are specializing in associated fields, is lost investment. IITs get a lot of money to fund students who study there, or every university, every government university gets funding to support students. The tuition fees don't cover everything, which means the government is supporting things, and that is lost because the students go off and do something else because that's where the jobs are. So there needs to be a infrastructure built, and that's the part which I was hoping to find in Niti Aayog, to say, here is how the pathway is. If you're a student, this is what the pathway is. If you're a company, here's what the incentives are. Build this thing. If you build it, there will be a workforce that's trained from premier universities who will come and work for you. That is missing. I did not find that at all. And that's worrying. Doesn't mean that it's only in India or India is special. It is pretty much everywhere. Some better than others, but everyone suffers from having people train on the job. And so I hope that there will be suggestions and there will be a development of a carbon market, and I look forward to that. But as of now, I have not found any indication for it. Okay, so there is a very big thrust for Indo-US strategic alliances, both Indo-US, Indo-European, Indo-Norway, Indo-French, Indo-German. There are a lot of collaboration discussions as well as collaborations that are happening. But they seem to be more on an administrative level, with very little coming down to the research level or to technology level. I know this both from the Indian side as well as the US side. The Department of Energy has a big thrust where they inform us about whatever conversations are happening with Indian Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Petroleum, and so on. My colleagues at various other administrative jobs in India tell me also, we are having this conversation, what should we expect? And so beyond that, there is knowledge sharing, model building. From what I have seen, is this is a one-way street. When for a big part, and this is my personal information, so personal opinion, the knowledge sharing is expected to be a one-way part. US imparts knowledge, India takes it up. That's the expectation. I'm not saying that's what's written on paper. I'm not saying that's what happens. That is the unspoken rule which you sort of get the undercurrent for. Same thing with Europe. Indo-European strategic alliances, collaborations, are to impart the knowledge that is gained in Norway to India. It ignores all of the knowledge that is built here in-house. Right? So without a strong assurance from the government, this is a two-way bilateral agreement, it becomes a challenging task to fulfill, becomes a challenging part to even say we need to do this. If you read over here, this is the India-US Strategic Clean Partnership between Niti Aayog and US aid. US aid should not be leading this. It should be a US governmental agency on the same level as Niti Aayog. USAID is an organization that is dispersing aid that is meant for countries that are have challenging circumstances, which was historically built with charity in mind. If USAID is leading that, we should be worried. Why is USAID leading it? Why not the Department of Energy? Why not the Department of Commerce? So the part which becomes challenging is, and this is for Sustainable Growth Pillar. This is the SDG from the United Nations, and it is problematic even in the participation. And we'll look at what this is, I've pulled this out from Niti Aayog and from a few other sources, and we will look at the US side of how they're reporting. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. India most probably does the same thing if it's going to partner with a country that it thinks is economically, politically less strong than India. So this same language will appear, but now India will be offering the partnerships and the knowledge sharing with a one-way street from India to whichever country it's partnering with. This is politics at play. The part which I'm worried about is this thrust to be taking this at face value and saying, yes, we have a strategic partnership. There is not a strategic partnership, or the strategic partnership has different meanings in different places. This is very new. India has applied for full membership of the IEA. Currently, it's one of 20 or so countries that are association countries that have less rights. Here, India has to fulfill a certain set of requirements. You can go on IEA website that tells you what it is. This just happened this year. There was a meeting 2-3 months ago. Okay, so India policy. This is from the US government, trade government, the Department of Commerce. So I took that. I said, okay, what does the US say? There are the same fuzzy words that were there. They're ramping up large-scale decarbonization. Now, we all know a ramp can be steep, it can be shallow. This doesn't tell me anything. Is it 5 years? Is it 30 years? In the next 5 years, there is a plan. There is, if you go to Niti Aayog or you go to, there's one more agency, I'm forgetting the name. They have 5-year, 30-year plans. But there is not a tangible number that I can take to the bank. That I can say, okay, in the next 5 years, I should expect investment from Indian government on the order of 2,000 crore rupees. Okay, that's something definite, right? And I am reminded of this language here. There is 8,500 crore rupees for gasification. This is a hard number. I can take this and work with this and say, okay, it will be divided up. I can follow the money and find opportunities. If all it says is there will be ramping up of large-scale decarbonization and CCUS, I don't know what it means. How fast? How high? Am I looking at 50 crore? Am I looking at 500 crore? At 5,000 crore? What am I looking at? Over the next 30 years? Over the next 5 years? There is again that same thing. India's Niti Aayog has proposed industry clusters, employment generation, and financial incentives. But these are proposals. It's not clear how much employment by which year. 50% employment of all fresh graduates, 50,000 jobs per year in CCUS sector. And financial incentives, it is not clear how much, how often, and who is the dispersing agency. So this becomes a very difficult thing. One thing is clear is that India wants to reach a capacity of 700 million metric tons of carbon dioxide stored via CCUS by 2050. We are in 24, let's say 25. So within 25 years, we need to get here. "25 years to get to 750 million tons. If we start today, that's 3 million tons per year. Or we are going to ramp up as they're saying here, but then we'll have to ramp up very quickly. But there's also elsewhere in the document from Niti Aayog that says the technology is really not existing, that needs to be built up. So these goals, and this is not just, and I'm not criticizing India only, we have the same thing in US. My state, Colorado, has pledged to go 50% renewable by 2030. That's in 6 years from now. No, 5 years from now. And net zero by 2050. Colorado alone. When we asked the governor, we had meetings, we asked the governor, how are we going to do it? Where is the money? His answer was, money will come. We are looking up to see where the money is coming from. It is everywhere. It is everywhere the same way, because the goals are very easy to declare. There is a challenge, there is a climate problem waiting to happen, waiting to accelerate. We have to do something. Public is getting very annoyed. So governments declare these goals like this, but without a plan in place. Without a plan in place, this is not going to work. And so there is a policy introduction on implementation. I have not been able to find that policy. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. Maybe I'm just not equipped with the right type of search tools to find it. But that policy needs to be widely distributed. Everyone should have that in their hands. All of you who are interested, I can assume that all of you who are taking the class here are interested in CCUS. You should be able to tell me, Manika, you should look here, here, and here. The policy clearly states this, this, and this. The goals are to reduce emissions by 50%. 50% by 2050 and net zero by 2070. This is what India has declared at international meetings. It's going to be your jobs, all of you students here, it's going to be your jobs to achieve this, right? The US government says that there will be a required investment of $100 to $150 billion through 2050. So, and that is not clear where it's coming from. There are planned targets, And remember, this is from a trade perspective from US to India. The plan targets are steel, cement, oil and gas, petrochemicals, and fertilizers. So these are the big areas where things should happen. All for companies that are working in this field to say, if you are looking to invest outside of US, then consider India if you're working in this field. That's what this means. So that's on the policy side. That's what they're telling people. And then they're saying there's opportunity for US companies. This is from the US Department of Commerce. And they're saying India is formulating a business model and financial incentives to promote commercial scale CCUS adoption. Right? So it's formulating, but be prepared because it will come. And the opportunities are in building materials, in chemicals, polymers, enhanced oil recovery. This is just another way of stating the same thing as was in the previous one. So now they're naming the actual type of factories, right? And they're saying, hey, we can help you. We can help you develop these trades to develop exporting your technology to India in these and these sectors. So be prepared, get your technology in order, get your technology adapted if it needs to be, and start looking at the Indian market. But they also said there are challenges, and these are the challenges the Department of Commerce identifies. There's a high cost of capturing and compressing carbon dioxide. What I didn't find was the high cost is there anyway, is there for the US as well. What they don't say is it higher in India or is it the same as US? That is not there. One thing they are very clear, the transport infrastructure is not existent here. Right now in India, on the scale that you need to transport, really is not there, carbon dioxide transport. This part, they identify that there will be a need to have technical advances, technological advances. And that part is because the Indian side has not been as aggressive to promote what is happening here. There's an immense amount of technology that's being developed. You heard it in this course in the 2 weeks. There were a lot of cutting edge capture technologies that were presented here. And that part is just downplayed over here. And the other two things they name is social acceptance and environmental acceptance. And this is because there is not a very open policy on what should be the environmental process that you need to follow, what should be the minimum requirements that you need to meet if you are scoping a storage site, for example. The part which is, and I have the same challenge when I go to Europe because I don't see that as openly published as you have in the type of permits that need to be met in the US. The social acceptance is something that we have not really discussed here in this class. And that is something that I have seen a lot from ONGC, for example. It does not count. There are places, for example, the heavy oil field, Palol is severely contaminating all the side villages. There is not any acceptance on the part of ONGC to clean up. If they were to accept, yes, it's coming from their operations, then they would have to pay a lot of money. So that part is not really there. And the payback comes by way of very large protests that then kill the project instead of making the project acceptable in the social environment. So there are quite a few challenges that exist with people weighing in and talking about what all needs to be done. This is the Indian policy in much more detail from the government, from the US government. It is challenging. I think that is the last slide I have. Yes. I think it would be a very big service for most people looking to either work or invest or research or develop in this field to have a clear policy statement. If you're looking for money, here's where you look. If you're looking for hiring, for talent, this is where you look. If you're looking to get education in the side, this is where you want to be. These are the markets which will be hiring soon. If the US government can say that these are the opportunities that will come, then every student should be looking at this and saying, oh, there will be extra jobs available in these fields. If this matches what I like to do, then maybe I should find employment, I should find training in these fields, right? That sort of a disbursement of information is, I found that a little bit challenging. India is a big participant. The second part of this talk was to be SDGs, Indian policy on SDGs. And I had the exact same experience. India is co-signee of UN SDGs. Of many parts, it is part of the task force that defines SDGs and how to identify, how to manage them. But I don't see policy specifically for India based on those SDGs that India is helping co-write. So it's not a very uplifting information to provide at the last day in the last lecture, but this is pretty much, there is work to do. That's pretty much my takeaway from here, is to say, having developed this lecture, because I don't do policy, I really don't do policy, but since this was part of the curriculum, I thought it should be interesting, it should be simple to straightforward to say what the policy is and what to do. And now that I see that there is really no policy that is easy to access, I have my takeaways from here and my tasks that I think I need to define based on this, to talk to people and say, hey, I couldn't find any of the policy. What do you have? Where is it? Can we put this on a web page? Or based on that, synthesize it and put it in my web page. But there needs to be something that people have access to knowledge, right? That's the part where I think is a big opportunity. There are social scientists, there are economists. We heard a beautiful talk by Raghuram. No, the finance. Santosh Sahu. And that was amazing to say these are the financial constructs. But there would be something for IITM to say, okay, here's the policy with those constructs for financing. This is what India says it will do. That's an opportunity, right? Right now, it's not happening.